SABC foreign editor Sophie Mokoena joins us now on the line. A very good morning to you, Sophie. We called you to speak about developments in the Middle East, but we've just played an insert where we're talking about developments at the Africa CDC. What's the latest? What can you tell us in terms of vaccination on the continent?
Yes, indeed. Last night there was an agreement between Hamas and Israel that the ceasefire should be implemented, and they did. But the big question, Desiree, here is the real problem is still there. How do you ensure that the people of Palestine are free, and also these settlements by Israeli stopped with immediate effect? Because if you don't do that, if you don't address the cause of this conflict, you are continuously going to have a ceasefire. It's fine, well and good. You can bring in humanitarian assistance, give people time to breathe, give people time to rebuild. But again, you are going to see a destruction of the very same infrastructure that they have built. And therefore, the international community must ensure that both Israel and Palestine are back at the negotiating table, and the peace process, as it was proposed, does happen. And therefore, even its implementation is monitored by international community. Don't allow one group to continuously violate the international laws. Israel has violated international laws on many occasions. And unfortunately, the biggest economy on the continent, that is America, is always taking sides. And therefore, as long as America is taking a side, you will have this problem. Only a few weeks ago, the administration of Joe Biden announced that they have sold huge consignments of arms to Palestine. And look where we are today. So as long as there's still a supply of arms to these two factions or these two groups, you will continuously have this problem. But thanks to Egypt, an African country that was able to push for this ceasefire, it was President al-Sisi of Egypt who facilitated this ceasefire.
Sophie, are you able to give us the details of the ceasefire as more calls come out for lasting peace in the Middle East?
It is not so broad and full of content. It was just a ceasefire. In terms of going forward, they will have to come back and say, here are the issues that we are saying we must agree on, and these issues must be implemented. But for now, it's just that breather for people to go out there and try and rebuild. But like I said, the whole international community must make sure that there is a lasting peace. There's lasting solution. But if you don't do that, you'll come back again 6 months or 7 years or 10 years or 1 year and find this kind of a situation where people's lives are destroyed and people die because of the two groups that can't find one another.
Is it significant that American President Joe Biden has come out to say that he has reached out to Israel, to the administration of Netanyahu, to commend them on this development and not reached out to the Palestinians? It
is a weak sign of a leader. If you are pursuing peace and lasting peace and you want to be a mediator, you have to ensure that when you speak, we don't feel or get a sense of some sort of biasness. Yesterday, when you listen to President Biden, the first comment, he made it clear that I'm on the side of Israel. Yes, justice must be done in terms of Palestinians, but I am on the side of Israel. And therefore, it wasn't really inspiring, particularly for a leader who many people thought he is going to do things differently. But clearly, as we indicated even during the campaign and during the election and inauguration, that in terms of international matters and foreign policy, he may be diplomatic, but not much is going to change. And therefore, the policy of America still stands. We are on the side of Israel. What about ordinary people from Palestine? Yes, give them humanitarian assistance now, but what's going to happen to them in terms of what they have been fighting for? The emancipation of Palestine people. And therefore, that's where the problem is. But I think America got a very rude awakening call when in the Congress, some members of the Congress took a stand that speaks to human rights. Secondly, the whole world, we've never seen such demonstrations in previous times where there was this conflict. But this time around, because of technology, because of social media, people took to the streets immediately. And the bombing of the building that was housing media exposed Israel. And people took a stand that enough is enough, and Palestine got support. And I think it's not going to stop now, because now the support is there, and Palestine will be emboldened. Israel is now on the back foot. They must do the PR. Many people have died. America the same. The issue of selling arms to Israel, and immediately there's this conflict. I think the International Criminal Court, the ICC at The Hague, they must investigate violation of international laws and also a violation of human rights. The United Nations Human Rights Council must come in. We know that the chief prosecutor at the ICC had indicated previously that they had started with investigations, investigating whether there's a case to answer, particularly by Israel. And therefore, I think it is a moment where those who support and believe and who claim to stand for international laws and human rights to stand up and make a very loud noise that there must be investigations. And those who have committed human rights violations must be held accountable.
Thank you so much for giving us that update. Of course, there's still a lot more to be covered in this story. Let's